Good morning. This is your daily dose of complete health with your local chiropractor, Patrick Hogg. So we did our first health talk last night, and when I do these, I love pulling out some of the statistics of how complicated our brain and our nerve system is. Now, have you ever actually thought about how many nerve cells are estimated to be in our brains? And how many connections that starts to make? So statistically speaking, based on the cross sections of brains that we've taken and how many neurons we can count in a specific area and timesing it by the volume, we can estimate that there should be roughly 86 billion nerve cells within our brain. And then when you look at the connections that these make, we know as synapses, so that nerves can talk from one to another, there's 10 to the power of 15. I think that works out at about 1,000 trillion nerve ending connections from one nerve to another nerve. Now, if you really let that number sink in, 86 billion nerve cells with over 1,000 trillion connections. This is one of the most complicated systems in the world. It is probably the most high-tech computer with the biggest number of connections that you could possibly think of. So that's 86 billion nerve cells with over 1,000 trillion connections within your brain and your nervous system. So like I say, one of the most complicated systems in the world. Now, the question is what does it actually do? Well, our nervous system controls absolutely every single function within our body. So a lot of us potentially don't even look at what our brain and our nervous system is actually doing and how it actually takes control of our life. Now, let me just give you a couple of examples. You cannot feel emotion without your brain and your nervous system. You cannot move any joints without your brain and your nervous system. You wouldn't be able to even function any of your organs without the brain and nervous system. So you therefore have to have constant running control of this system for your body just simply to function and survive. As soon as your brain stops, or the function of your brain stops, things like your heart will stop, your breathing will stop, your stomach digestion will stop, your muscles won't be able to work, your sensation will disappear. This is why when you see someone that has a stroke, which is a blood supply issue to the brain, they'll start to lose functions of different neuronal tissues depending on where in the brain it is affected. Now, there are a lot of things that we can do that can start to affect our brain and our nerve system and actually cause damage. Now, there are three types of cause of brain damage or neuronal damage, which is physical stress. We can take impacts, how we can start to affect ourselves physically by not moving enough, which can start to affect our brain. We can even start to try and move too much and cause irritation or inflammation within our spine and our nerve system, which can start to cause irritation to the neuronal roots and change the way they make their connections. There are also chemical effects, so stuff like alcohol or use of other recreational drugs or even medication drugs. So stuff like gabapentin is a neural inhibitor, and one of its main side effects is kind of brain fog or memory loss. Other things that we can start to do is we can emotionally stress ourselves out. And by increasing our emotional stresses, we're rising stuff like cortisol, which can start to have a huge impact on stuff like short-term memory, longer-term memory. It can start to have an impact on stuff like our heart rate, our irritability levels, our stress levels, and just our overall general feeling of well-being. So really we can hack into maintaining really healthy brain and nerve function by using those three areas, and that was what we were teaching last night. So I just wanted to share the overview of what we were talking about, why the brain and the nerve system is so integral, but also some of the main causes of what causes brain and neuron dysfunction, but also how you can use those same three areas that cause the damage to actually reverse the damage as well. So if you ever want to learn a little bit more about this kind of stuff, we are doing it as almost like an hour-long seminar. It's around 45 minutes to an hour depends, because some people have more questions and they'll interact a little bit more. So certain classes will run slightly longer, but they're almost always about 45 minutes. We generally try to keep them relatively interactive so you guys learn as much as you possibly can. And guess what? They're completely free of charge to both practice members and members of the public. Why? Because I personally believe that if there is one thing that we're all entitled to, even if we don't all receive treatment from a chiropractor, we're all entitled to understanding how we can immediately make an impact on our health so that we can live to be the best versions of ourselves. Patrick here from Complete Health, and we'll speak to you again very, very soon. Take care for now.